Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. $10. Not a bad price. Another project to be worked on. This is a clamp that's supposed to hold the blower on. And it looks like somebody at some time in the past has broken this. Now, it really shouldn't take that much pressure to hold this thing together. Looks like somebody over-tightened it and just cracked it off. But it's chipped and it needs to be repaired. So, what I'm going to do is make up a fixture so that I can hold that thing at the right distance and put some braze in there. This part of the forge doesn't get hot. It has air going through it. It's going to get some reflected heat off the coal fire in the bowl of the forge, but it's really not going to cause too much of a problem. One interesting thing about this forge, almost all of them that I've seen or had, I have one in the blacksmith shop now, that has these same iron tube pipe legs, and almost all of them that I've seen have the bottom part of the leg either rotted off or severely corroded. These haven't been. I would imagine this belonged to a company that took care of their equipment, which is not as unusual as you'd think. I think a lot of the stuff got outdated, and then the outdatedness of it made it so that it got stuck somewhere. And somewhere tends to be somebody's back barn or a shed. And worst case is sitting in somebody's front yard as a lawn ornament. And when you do that kind of stuff, you end up with cracked castings. Now, I'm not going to try and fasten this together. I'm not going to try and braze that, because this is going to expand and contract all the time. What I'm going to do is, someone has put a couple of bolts on that thing, and I imagine it had a strap going across there. I'm going to reinforce this thing by taking a piece of steel and putting a strap across this just to keep those two things in line and kind of help support them. I'm going to leave the holes, one out here and one out there. I'm not going to put two holes here, because that just puts a hole in a weak point. I'm going to just support the structure and then let the steel hold the thing together and keep it in alignment, and so it doesn't put more stress on it, because I don't want to have that crack running across and coming through out the other side of the bowl. And that's part of the planning process for repairing this forge. Now this tweer looks like it was put in upside down. Hard to tell. These tend to get burned up. But I'm going to cut these bolts off, just grind the heads off of them. Take this out. Cut a new one of these. Some of the nicer ones have a thing called a nut, which is a triangular lobe plug that goes into this hole, and you can turn it and close off the airflow. But the whole idea of it is this builds up ashes in it, and if you turn that nut, it breaks the ash clumps up and makes them drop out the pan on the bottom, because there is a gate. You can see the gate off to the side there. That closes off that hole, so when you put air into this hole, it goes down the pipe and gets forced out here and creates the oxygen that makes the whole thing burn. And the idea of forced air going through coal generates a lot of heat. That's the idea behind a forge. So I got some repairs to do. This is not serious. Not serious at all. Neither is this. I've seen them with a big chunk of the bowl knocked out of them. If I leave this unsupported, there's a good chance that one of these cracks could run and come out the side over here. It's a Champion Blower and Forge Company out of Lancaster, PA. And this is a really nice blower. To get this in tip-top working condition, I had to make some modifications. The gearbox is inside this case. Had to fill the gearbox with double-aught grease. Because these gears have been dry for a long, long time. And the blower gears down the power from this crank on the side of the gearbox to the point where the fan is going pretty good clip. Not bad for a $10 purchase. Many years ago, back before blowers were really popular. I did have to make some changes. The fan had a 1/4-20 set screw in it. And that 1/4-20 set screw had rusted off to the point where it wouldn't work anymore. So I swapped it out and put in a 1/4-20 Allen head bolt, socket head cap screw. So now I have to come up with a mount. To anchor this to the side of the forge. it attaches with a plate here, and it's not the actual blower for the forge that I have, but I can make a mount to support it by bolting through this and then coming down and attaching to the leg. I don't want to attach to the cast iron body. I want to go to the round leg if possible, so that I don't put any strain on that cast iron bowl. The bowl is pretty thin, and cast iron is strong, but it's also brittle. And the older it gets, the more brittle it gets, especially after it's been heated and cooled a bunch of times. So I want to mount this so that it goes down to the structure of the steel tube legs and attaches this to the side of the forge so that I can remove this for traveling. I want to be able to take this off with just a couple of bolts, slide this out of the tube, and then take off. I'm probably going to take a piece of tubing and make a manifold to take it over to the blower port to take it down to the tweer on the forge. This is more than enough blower for that little forge. This is actually for a really large forge. The time I spent on it tonight putting grease in the gearbox and oiling it up, time well spent. This old gearbox hasn't done much in the last 10 years other than sit around and collect dust, waiting for use to come along. Because I already had a forge, and I had a forge with a blower on it. It's out there in the blacksmith shop now. So now I have a forge that needs a blower, and I have a blower that needed a forge. Marriage made in heaven. Hestifus is smiling right now. If you have any suggestions for new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.
This video is not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union without the express written permission of the parents or the legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.